Hello Year 2 and welcome to Friday's maths lesson. Let's get on and make some equal groups by grouping. So question 1, if we group 9 apples into groups of 3, how many groups will we have? So you can have a go at doing this at home. I'll show you how I would do it. I would draw out 9 apples, or 9 circles, might be a bit quicker. So I've drawn out 9 and I want them into groups of 3. So I'm going to circle 3 circles at a time, 3 apples. So that's 1 lot of 3, 2 lots of 3 and 3 lots of 3. So I've circled my apples into groups of 3. How many groups will we have? We have got 1, 2. Okay, so question 1. If we group 9 apples into groups of 3, how many groups will we have? If you'd like to, you can pause the video there and work it out. If not, I will show you the answer now. So we've got 3 groups of 3. So how many groups do we have? We have 3. Question 2. If we share 8 flowers between 4 vases, how many will be in each vase? I'm going to share out 8 flowers into 4 groups. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've shared out 8 flowers into 4 vases. How many in each vase? 2. And last of all, question 3. Which calculation represents 8 flowers being shared between 4 vases? Not grouped into 2s, but shared between 4 vases. It is in fact... Oh, it's moved. It is in fact 8 divided by 4 equals 2, okay, because 8 shows us the amount of flowers, 4 shows us, in this case, the groups that we were sharing into, and 2 tells us how many were in each. Whereas the other number, division number sentence, 2 tells us the amount that we are grouping into. So this one shows us sharing, this one shows us grouping, but don't worry, we will go over that a bit more today. Okay, moving on now to learning about dividing. So we have got 10 divided by 2, 10 counters divided into 2 groups. So we are sharing them out into 2 groups. Remember doing it equally so that they've got the same amount in. Our answer is 5. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. 10 counters divided into 2 groups equals 5. Now, if we were to do grouping, we'd do it a bit differently. We would group them into 2s. So there are 2 ways that we can do our dividing. So it gives us the same answer, 10 divided by 2 equals 5 again. The first one shows us sharing them out into 2 groups. The second one shows us grouping them into 2s. Both things get us the same answer. So you need to work out what works best for you, whether you find it easier to share the counters out or you find it easier to group them into 2s. And it might be different for different questions. So 6 divided by 3. Let's begin by sharing them out. So 6 divided by 3, we've got 6 counters. Divided by 3 means 3 groups in this case when we're sharing. Sharing them out equally. That gives us 2. 6 divided by 3 equals 2. And then grouping them. Now this isn't where we're sharing them out. We are grouping them into our group. So remember our second number here tells us how many we're putting into each group. So we've got our 6 and we're going to group them into 3s. So there's 1 3 and 2 3. So 6 divided by 3 equals 2. We get the same answer again. We just went about it a different way. So there you go. 6 divided by 3, that shows us our sharing and our grouping. Both written the same way. So in sharing, number 3 tells us how many groups we were sharing between. And when we are grouping, number 3 tells us how many we have in each group. So the 2 when sharing tells us what we get in each group, and the 2 in grouping tells us how many groups we can make. So I've got some bean bags. How many groups of 10 can we make? How many groups of 5 can we make? And how many groups of 4 can we make? And how many groups of 2? How many groups of 1? Let's have a go. So 2 groups of 10. So that's 20 divided by 10 equals 2 groups. We've got 4 groups of 5. Remember, 20 was our total. So 20 divided by 5 equals 4 groups. So there you go, 5 groups of 4. That's showing us that 20 divided by 4 gives us 5. 10 groups of 2, 20 divided by 2 gives us 10. 20 groups of 1, 20 divided by 1 gives us 20. So if you're ever dividing a number by 1, it just equals the same number, because dividing by 1 means either putting it into one group or splitting it up into groups of 20 in this case, and both answers will give us 20 because it's the total number. So 8 divided by 2. We have got this girl, and she is going to count up in 2s until she gets to 8. How many jumps did she make? She did 4 jumps of 2, and that is equal to 8. So she did 4 jumps of 2. So when we do 8 divided by 2, we could use a number line to help us. See, if we count up in 2s, which is what we're dividing it by, how many jumps do we need to do? And in this case, we needed to do 4 jumps. How about 15? Now, we're not going to count up in 2s this time because we're dividing by 5. So we're going to count up in 5. So 5, 10, 15. How many jumps did she have to do? She had to do 3 jumps. So 3 jumps of 5 are equal to 15. That's the same as saying 15 divided by 5 equals 3. 60 divided by 10. Now we're going to count up in 10s this time. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. How many jumps have I done? Have a think at home. Can you count them up? There were 6 jumps, and 6 jumps of 10 are equal to 60. Right, this time we need to work out both of the missing numbers. So 18 divided by something equals something. So have a think, what could we do our jumps in? Now, there's lots of different answers on the screen. So you could do 18 jumps of 1, so we could count up in 1s like that. Oh dear. Could count up in 1s, or we could count up in jumps of 3. So we could do 1 jump, and each time counting up in 3. So we could do that. Or we could do jumps in 6 or even jumps in 9. But you've got the answers there on the other side if you want to have a pause and think there about how they've worked that out. Okay, so 30 divided by 1 equals 30. Now remember, whenever we divide a number by 1, it equals the same number that we started off with, because divided by 1 basically means put into one group, and we've already got the one group. 30 divided by 2 is 15. 30 divided by 3. Now you can have a go at this one at home. We've already got our 30 crayons divided into 3. And how many is in each group? There are 10 in each group. Now 30 divided by 4. We can't do that, because if I wanted to divide 30 by 4 and I had 30 things, I'm going to pause the screen and come back with 30 things. So I have got 30 things. So if I wanted to group those into 30 divided by 4, I could group them into 4s. So I'll come back in a second and show you my groups of 4s. So I have tried grouping them into groups of 4s, but look at this one. I couldn't do anything with it because there weren't enough counters to make another group of 4. So I cannot divide 30 by 4. I couldn't put it into 4 groups and I couldn't group it into 4s. So how about 30 divided by 5? Maybe this time you could try it on a number line. So on my 100 square, I am going to circle up in 5, circle the numbers in 5s up until I get to 30. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So I've circled up in 5s until I've got to 30. How many groups of 5 did I get? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of 5. There you go. And now, remember, for example, if I did 10 divided by 2 equals 5, I could also, using that number sentence that I already have, switch round the numbers. 10 divided by 2 equals 5, 10 divided by 5 equals 2. So if I know that 30 divided by 5 equals 6, there you go, what would 30 divided by 6 equal? I've switched the numbers around. 30 divided by 6 would equal 5. And 30 divided by 7 I cannot do. I would not be able to split up 30 crayons into groups of 7. That wouldn't work. I'd be left with too many. I'd be left with some over, not enough to make another group of 7. There's no worksheet today, but what you could have a go at doing is at home having a go at sharing and grouping your things. So, for example, hopefully you'll be able to see this. I have got 10 double cards, okay? So I've got 10. And I want to work out 10 divided by 2. So on this slide, I'm going to show you sharing these out into 2 groups. So I've drawn a line down the middle of my whiteboard to share them into 2 groups. So I've got my 10 double cards, and remember I'm going to do one at a time so I can make sure it's equal. So I'm sharing out my double cards into 2 groups. And in my 2 groups, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each group. So that would show me 10 divided by 2 equals 5, because I have 10 double cards and I've shared them out into 2 groups, and in each group I got 5. Now this time I've still got 10 double cards, but I am going to group them into groups of 2s. I'm still working out 10 divided by 2, but I'm going to group them rather than share them. So that's 1 group of 2, 2 groups of 2, 3 groups of 2, 4 groups of 2, and 5 groups of 2. So this time, this instead shows me 10 double cards grouped into 2s. And when I grouped them into 2s, I found that I got 5 groups. So it's the same division sentence as the last slide, but instead of sharing, I was grouping this time. Okay, hopefully you can have a go at doing that at home. It'd be great to see maybe some pictures of that. But yes, no worksheet today, so have a go at doing that. Okay, have a good weekend as well when you get there. Bye-bye.